All right, so are you ready for this? We are diving deep into one of the most talked about, debated chapters in history. Mark 16, the grand finale of Mark's gospel.
It's a wild ride, let me tell you. Full of shock, doubt, and ultimately a mission that really did, change the world.
Yeah, we're talking empty tombs, reappearances, and instructions that kind of set the stage for, well, everything that comes after.
And the whole thing starts with something that seems, pretty normal at first. Just a group of women on their way to anoint a body.
Right, a Sunday morning, the sun's just come up, and these women are talking Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome. They're heading to Jesus' tomb. They've even got the spices ready for the whole ritual.
But there's this one pretty big problem. Who's going to move that giant stone that's blocking the entrance?
That's a good question, right? I mean, have you ever tried to move a giant stone?
No, not really my thing.
Me neither. But anyway, when they get there, surprise, the stone's already been moved. And inside, they find a young guy, dressed in white, just hanging out on the right side.
Talk about an unexpected guess.
Yeah, right. And then, out of nowhere, he just drops this bomb. Jesus is gone. He has risen.
Poof. Gone. And he tells these women to go spread the news, to tell the disciples, and specifically Peter, that Jesus is going ahead of them to Galilee, where they'll all meet up again. It's kind of interesting, though, that Peter, the guy who denied Jesus 3 times, gets a shout out here.
Yeah, you're right. It's like this huge message of forgiveness, right? Like everyone gets a second chance.
Exactly. But, okay, here's the thing. Their reaction to this whole risen from the dead thing, it's not exactly what you'd expect. There's no cheering, no high fives.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's more like terror.
Pure terror. They're scared, confused, the whole 9 yards. They run away, and they don't breathe a word of it to anyone.
I mean, can you blame them? Think about it. The guy you thought was dead is suddenly alive again, and he's, ascended to a higher plane of existence. Talk about a shock to the system.
Right. It makes you realize these weren't superheroes or something. They were just normal people dealing with this crazy supernatural event.
So, I mean, what does that fear say about faith? About trying to believe in something that seems, impossible?
That's a great question. It really makes you think. And then you've got these appearances of Jesus after the whole resurrection thing. He shows up to Mary Magdalene first.
It's pretty interesting that she's the first one, considering everything she went through with him.
Right. She basically becomes the original herald of the resurrection, but when she tells everyone, those who are grieving and everything, they don't buy it.
And this whole disbelief thing, it's kind of a recurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
He appears to 2 disciples on the road, and they get the same reaction. No one believes them.
Yeah, it's like this constant struggle to grasp the whole resurrection idea. And what's even more intriguing is that he keeps appearing in different forms. Why not just show up as his old self?
Exactly. Is there some deeper meaning to all these different forms he takes?
It's a good question, and honestly, there are a lot of different interpretations out there. But, okay, then you've got that big showdown with all 11 disciples, and let me tell you, Jesus doesn't hold back, does he? He basically calls them out for their doubt, for not having faith.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, that's for sure. But even when he's reprimanding them, there's this sense of purpose there, right? It's not like he's leaving them to wallow in their disbelief. He gives them this mission, this huge task that would, come on, change history.
Yeah, the Great Commission. Talk about a legacy.
Okay, but for those of us who maybe slept through Sunday school, break it down for us. What does this Great Commission actually involve?
It's essentially a command to go out into the world, the entire world, and spread the word, the gospel, to everyone.
It's huge. Where do you even begin with something that massive?
Well, and then there's this whole thing about belief, right? Jesus says those who believe and get baptized, they'll be saved. But those who don't, they won't.
So is that literal belief? And what about those signs he talks about, driving out demons, speaking in tongues, all that? Are those meant to be taken literally too?
Now you're getting into some really deep theological waters. These are the kind of questions that people have been wrestling with for centuries.
And just like that, boom, the chapter ends with Jesus ascending into heaven, leaving the disciples with this, let's face it, pretty monumental task.
It's an incredibly powerful image. This whole chapter, it's more than just the story from the past. It's like the launch pad for the spread of Christianity. It's a reminder that even when you're scared, when you're full of doubt, faith can push you to do some pretty amazing things.
It really makes you think. So what hits home for you in all of this? Is it the whole wrestling with doubt thing, or the power of believing? Or maybe the crazy responsibility of spreading a message that seems honestly kind of impossible?
Imagine being one of those disciples standing there knowing you've got this gigantic mission ahead of you. How would you even begin to tackle something like that?
It definitely makes you think about how we live out our own faith,
Yeah.
and how we share our beliefs or don't with the world around us.
It's a story that keeps inspiring and challenging people, even today. And that's something worth thinking about, don't you think?